Hello, good afternoon, everybody. I hope you're having a wonderful Saturday. I am Asmita, your IELTS and everything English mentor here at Vedantu. And today we are going to go through some grammar rules, very important grammar rules. And these are important not just from the perspective of the IELTS, but any kind of competitive exam that has English in it. So if you are planning on taking TOEFL or SSC or even some banking exams, if you're planning on taking the SAT, any kind of English exam, be it Indian or international, there are certain grammar rules that you need to know, and that's what we are going to sort of get out of the way today. If you have any confusions, concerns, doubts, then you can ask me. And the format of the class is going to be quite simple. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a sentence on screen. You have to identify the error in it. Once you do that correctly, and hopefully you are able to do that, we will correct the error and quickly revise the concept related to the error. All right? So, yes, give me your highs and hellos. Hi, Yudhishthra. Okay. Hi, Shibam. Yudhishthir is what I'm going to call you. And what about the rest? Come on, show some Saturday energy. It's the weekend. Or for those of you who don't have Saturday off, it's almost the weekend. Why aren't you a little more excited? Is it because you're studying? Is that why? See, I would usually, as a student, I would always dedicate my Saturdays to studying so that I could chill on Sundays. Because Sunday already comes with the Monday anxiety that, post 4 p.m. on Sunday, you can't really do anything because you're just tensed about the upcoming weekday. So, in fact, I would get most of my homework and stuff out of the way on Friday evening itself so that I have Saturday to chill. So, I don't know what you guys do, but Sunday you should chill, I feel. Okay, so if the format of the class is clear to all of you and we are good to get started, then let me quickly tell you something before we move ahead. For those of you that I'm seeing for the first time, like Yudhishthir and Shibam, we have very good career counseling available for free if you are serious about wanting to study abroad, which is why you are on this channel. Then you must fill out this form. I would suggest you do it with your parents. So whenever your mom, dad are free, sit down with them, fill out this form, and you will get contacted by an expert career counselor who will guide you for. And it's not just about, okay, can I get into this university? Can I apply for this visa? The career counselor is going to understand what you want to do and fish out the best options for you. So you might think that, okay, this is the university I want to get into and this is what I'm going to work towards. But that might not be the best option for you because of your limited knowledge. You perhaps thought that this was what you were meant to do or where you were meant to go. The career counselor has a lot more insight and can actually guide you and broaden your horizon a bit so that you can apply to multiple universities and then make the best, most thought out decision for yourself. All right, so do fill out this form and we are going to get started. This is sentence number 1. I am not going to read it out because a lot of times I accidentally correct the error while reading it out. So here is the sentence and you are going to quickly tell me what the error in this sentence is. And this shouldn't take a lot of time because, I mean, y'all are smart, right? Come on, come on, come on. Quickly, quickly, quickly. What is the error here? Small talk can happen. Sure, if you are able to multitask, you can do it simultaneously. But your main focus should be learning something. That's why you're attending this session, right? If you wanted to hang out with friends, you wouldn't be on YouTube right now. You'd be out somewhere hanging out with them. So yes, make friends, chat, have fun, but not at the cost of studying. Quickly, what is the error here? I can't believe none of y'all know what the error is. That's kind of sad. You think tourist is the error? Ralston thinks that the error is in the word tourist. Okay. I have already started. What are you saying, Yudhishthir? I want you to tell me what the error is according to Ralston. The error is tourist. Anybody else has any other guess? Come on, quickly. Okay, Shibam. You're saying have should be has. Ralston, you did not give me a correction. What about the rest? Come on, why are you all silent spectators? Yudhishthir said, Yudhishthir, I'm just gonna write UD for you, okay? It is number. Hi Sunny, what is the error here? Okay, these are the guesses I've gotten so far. Only one person got it right, and that is Shibam. Very good, Shibam. The error here is have, and what should it be? It should be has. Why? Why? Because this is a subject verb agreement error, and the error that has actually taken place over here is quite simple. We have identified the subject incorrectly. So instead of identifying the correct subject, which is number, actual subject is number of the sentence, what did we do? We thought tourists is the subject. And so according to tourist, we put have over here. Whereas the actual subject is number, so we need to put has over here. Alright, now here is a rule to remember always when it comes to SVA or SVC. Whenever you have something of something, then your subject is always going to be before of, right? Before of. So in this case, what was the word that was before of? Number. Number is what? Singular. So what do we use here? We use the singular helping verb has. So the basic rule of SVC is simple. Okay, basic rule. What is the basic rule? Singular subject takes singular verb, whereas plural subject takes plural verb. Now here we need to make sure that our identification of subject is correct. If our identification is incorrect, then we will end up using the wrong verb. So even though the rule of subject-verb agreement is quite simple, where do we go wrong? In identifying the subject. So make sure whenever you have something of something, your correct subject will be what? What is going to be your correct subject? No, this is not a recorded video, Shivam. Your correct subject is going to be whatever is before of. Easy. You will remember this now. Okay. That was the first trick to remember for subject-verb agreement. Now, next we have this sentence over here. Quickly tell me what the error is. Quickly tell me what the error is. Come on, come on, come on. Shreya, what is the error? Shivam, what is the error? Okay, Shreya says that proper noun visit should be visited. All right, what about the rest? Okay, Aman agrees, and so does Sunny. You have to give me the correction also, because here identifying the error is only 50%. Correction of the error is also important, right? Aman also is in agreement with Shreya. What about Sunny? What is your correction? Give me the correction also, not just the error. Okay, Ralston. Thinks it should be used to visit. Or not. Okay, Sunny is in agreement with Aman and Shreya. Okay, so this one I'm going to have to give it to Ralston. Very good. No, Aman, your correction is incorrect. Okay, now understand this very clearly. What kind of a sentence is this? It's starting with when I was a child. Okay, so that means we are remembering past actions, right? We are remembering past actions. Is that clear? So whenever we have a sentence in which we are remembering something from the past, all right, we need to use either would or used to in order to talk about that action. Hi, Digambar. Okay, understand this very clearly. So now, when I was a child, if you translate this, if you want to say this in Hindi, जब मैं छोटी थी तब हम हर गर्मी की छुट्टियों में नानी के घर जाया करते थे. That करते थे is would or used to. All right, now you are saying I visited my grandparents every summer, but visited is in the simple past. It does not indicate a recurring action. It does not indicate a recurring action in the past. It is just one action that was maybe done once. So when I was 6 years old, we visited Agra. Okay, so that happened once. So in order to mention something that took place one time, simple past is fine, visited is fine. But here we are talking about a past action that used to occur every summer. You see the word every. So whenever we are remembering past actions, we will use would or used to. In this case, I would visit my grandparents every summer, or I used to visit my grandparents every summer. All right? Okay, next one. What is the error here? It's very simple, but it is often made by a lot of people. शिवम, सारे जो लाइव लेक्चर्स होते हैं ना, वो आप बाद में भी देख सकते हो, ठीक है? तो अगर आपका कभी क्लैश होता है तो आप बाद में जब लाइव सेक्शन में आओगे तो वो जो क्लास थी वो रिकॉर्डेड फॉर्म में हमेशा आपके लिए अवेलेबल रहेगी, ठीक है? Okay, Rohan. What are you saying? An umbrella. Okay. So you said an was missing. What about the rest? What about the rest? Okay, Sunny agrees. Very good, Aman. So, right now, while identifying the error, Ralston, what have you thought about something else only? You overthought this, I think. Okay, very good. All of you are absolutely right. Now see, the issue here is, if I tell you to correct the error, you will easily say that article is, one sec, missing article, right? You will easily be able to spot this error. But a lot of times while speaking, we somehow let go of the article or we eat it up. I don't know what we do, but we don't use it, especially when we're speaking fast. So this is something you always have to keep in mind. Now I'm going to change the context a little bit, right? If I change this bought so I've just made some additions and some changes to this sentence. Now tell me what article will we use over here? Took, what took? What are you changing to took? What article will I use over here? Now, can we still use an? Does that still work? Umbrella starts with a vowel sound. Very good. So now Shreya says we'll have to change it to the. Sunny still says an. What is correct over here? Here we will change it to the, because we're talking about an umbrella that has already been mentioned or that we already know about. Okay, so when I say I bought an umbrella, I am buying it for the very first time. It's a random umbrella that I've picked up from the first store that I saw. So it's not something I'm already aware of or in possession of. Correct? So I used an. But now I am talking about a specific umbrella. Which umbrella am I talking about? The one that I bought last week. So now this becomes the umbrella. Alright? Yes, very good Shreya. Very good Aman, Rohan. Sunny, I hope you've understood, right, why this will change to the. So always remember a and an, indefinite articles, the definite articles, okay, article. And we cannot use a or an with plurals, all right. So if I change this sentence now, if now I change this to what will be the correction? If now I change this to, oops, sorry. If now I change this to, I made the umbrellas plural, what will be the correction now? What will be the correction in this sentence? All right. Very good, Shreya. Perfect. So Shreya says no correction, but gave a suggestion that we can add words like some or many to indicate what? Quantity, right? But over here we cannot use an article, or we don't need to use an article, because a or an we cannot use anyway because it is plural, right? So we can't use a or an. We can use the if we are talking about a specific set of umbrellas. That depends on context. But in isolation, this sentence requires no correction, all right? You can just add some or many if you wish to indicate quantity. Great job, all right? So make sure you're always using your articles correctly. Now, what about this sentence? What about this sentence? Okay. Change with to 2. Okay, Sunny says no change. Or she marry with the doctor. Okay. Aman agrees with Shreya, but Aman has added a the. That's fine. The doctor, a doctor, depends on context. All right. Correct answer here is we will change with to 2. Now, if you ask me why, then let me tell you there is no logic. Sorry, but there is no logic to this, because always remember this about prepositions. While we can make some rules, Mostly usage is idiomatic. What that means is you simply have to memorize which preposition to use where. You have to memorize, there is no other way about it. There is some logic in some places, but mostly we just have to memorize. For example, tell me the difference between these two sentences. What is the difference between these two sentences? Okay, very good, Rohan. Correctly explained in Hindi. Whoever understands Hindi can refer to his comment. Right. So, इससे हमें पता चलता है, what do we understand? With has a specific meaning which we can say in Hindi becomes and इसका मतलब हो जाता है, right? Usually speaking, okay? But now, can we say she is married with a doctor, उसकी शादी एक डॉक्टर के साथ हुई है, right? Or do we say उसकी शादी डॉक्टर के पास हुई है? कोई लॉजिक बना इस चीज का? Now going by the meanings that we saw here, what do we think should come over here? What do we think should come over here? उसकी शादी डॉक्टर के साथ हुई है ना? This is what the issue with translating is, right? While what you have translated makes sense over here, it will stop making sense in this sentence. Because over here, we can't use with. We have to use to. Because over here, to is correct. That's how it is in English. That's why a lot of people who speak Hindi will say she's married with a doctor, because how can we say it in Hindi, or how do we say it in Hindi? उसकी डॉक्टर से शादी हुई है, डॉक्टर के साथ शादी हुई है, right? That's the problem in translation, and this happens with prepositions all the time. So while your translation makes sense over here, the same logic cannot apply to the previous sentence. So what do we have to do? We have to memorize. Over here, is fine, Aman. There is no problem with a. We are just saying that she's married to a doctor. हम नहीं बोल रहे कि इसी डॉक्टर से हुई है, हम कह रहे हैं जनरली कि उसका पति एक डॉक्टर है. All right? Very good. Yes, Shreya. That's absolutely true. You cannot do direct translations from one language to the other. Okay? So, here it's just a matter of memorizing. All right? Now, generally you can say the usage of with is, for example, if I want to say, fix this using a screwdriver. Over here, using I can replace with. All right? Or if I want to say, write this using a black pen. Again, over here, I can replace using with. So the usage of with is quite diverse. Come with me, we saw you have to come along with me. Here we can use, replace using with. So whenever there is a particular instrument that can accomplish a certain task, we use the preposition with to talk about its usage, right? So the use is very diverse and it's very different. There is no logic. It's just the way that language has developed. So for prepositions, ratta will be your friend. It is the one concept in which ratta marna is your best option. When it comes to prepositions of time and place that are in, on and at, in, on and at have a specific logic that you can follow. For example, in is always for a long period of time or a duration, right? On is for a date, at is for a particular time. Similarly, for place, in we use for an enclosed space, on we use for a surface, at we use for a point, a specific point. So there is some logic in the in, on, at prepositions. Other than that, we just have to memorize which preposition is what, especially when it comes to prepositions like to and with. There are certain prepositions of direction that are quite straightforward. For example, towards, from, all of that is easy. But here we have to simply memorize. That's why a lot of Indians make this mistake, because we are translating from Hindi to English. Don't do that. Simply memorize what the preposition should be, just like we memorize collocations. Alright? Okay, next. How many do we have left? We have 4 left, alright? What is this one? That's okay, Sion. Welcome now. Okay. We need are in place of were, actually. Okay, wait. So you're saying were needs to be changed to are. Aman is saying informations should be information. Rohan is saying was instead of were, and information, not informations. Okay. All right, Shreya says that many should be a lot of, and it should be information, not informations. All right. Okay, so out of all of this, Shreya is correct. Very good, Shreya. So some of you got a bit of it right, okay? Some of you got a bit of it right, which is information should not be plural. Why is that? What is the reason? It is a very simple reason. Information is an uncountable noun. Alright? Information is an uncountable noun. With uncountable nouns, we cannot form plurals. Alright? They will always be singular. Another rule is we cannot use many with uncountable nouns. Many is only used with countable nouns. So we have to replace it with a lot of. For something we can use other words as well, but generally a lot of is your easiest option. Okay? All right? Yes. So it is very simple over here. If we are doing, see, there are many ways for us to classify nouns. Proper noun, common noun, right? Uncountable, countable is one of them, abstract nouns, so on and so forth, right? Many different ways, methods of classification. One of them is whether or not the noun is countable or uncountable. Now, one thing to remember over here, while the logic that if you can count it, it's countable, if you cannot count it, it's uncountable stands, there are ways for us to count uncountable nouns also. So, a better way to remember this is we cannot form plurals of uncountable nouns and we cannot use our cardinal numbers, right? So, these can have plurals and these can be counted using numbers. On the other hand, these don't have plurals, need a countable noun to be quantified. All right, if you want to quantify an uncountable noun, if you want to talk about its quantity, you usually need an a countable noun to be able to do so. So, examples, easy way to remember is a lot of your regular kitchen items are uncountable. For example, water, tea, coffee, all of these are what? Liquids. Now, logically speaking, you cannot count liquids because how will you? Will you take a dropper? Can you make sure that the volume or the size of each drop is equal? So, there is no actual scientific way to easily count liquids. So, that's why they are uncountable. Similarly with grains, right? So, we have rice, wheat, sugar, all of these grains or things that have granules, we cannot count them. Emotions, I am 2 happy, 3 happy today, 5 happy today, that's not possible, right? All of them are uncountable. Furniture, advice, information, all of these things are we cannot say collectively that this is one unit. What constitutes furniture? Some people have three sofa seats and one coffee table as furniture. Some people have a 7-seater sofa and a dining table as furniture in a room. So the definition of these words itself is different for everybody. There is certain subjectivity. Advice, what constitutes as one advice, right? If I give you one piece of advice, there I am using the word piece to quantify advice. But if I just say, can I give you one advice? Can I give you 3 advices? That's not possible because what constitutes 1 or 2 or 3 advice, we don't know. Same thing with information. So now, stuff that can be counted using numbers like pen, human beings, friends, animals, all of these things come under countable. So that's quite straightforward. We can use countable nouns to count our uncountable nouns. For example, for information, we can use piece. Piece you can count. So you are giving piece of information, right? Items of furniture, liters of water, kg of wheat, bowl of rice, teaspoon of sugar. So you can use all of these different countable nouns to count your uncountable nouns. Now there are certain rules when it comes to quantity words. There are some that we can use with countable and some that we can use with uncountable. So here we can use few. Here we will use little. Here we can use many. Here we have much. But the problem with much is always used in the negative sense. There is not much water left. There is not much advice to be given in this situation, right? So much is always used in a negative sense. That is why when we want to talk about a lot of something, then we can simply use a lot of, and a lot of is one phrase that can be used with countable as well, right? So just remember, these are the things I use with countable for quantity, these are the things I use with uncountable, and that was the error. Shouldn't were be changed to is or was in that sentence as well? Yes. So yeah, now then comes our, once we have figured out the uncountable issue, then comes the SVC issue. Now because we had taken information as plural, whenever a sentence starts with there, the subject comes after the verb. That is clear? Whenever a sentence starts with there, the subject of that sentence will come after the verb. So in this case, were is our verb. After the verb, the only subject we have is informations. Because this was plural, we put were over here. Now we know it is uncountable, and that's why it will always be singular. So there was a lot of information in the article. Tense over here does not matter. Is also works, was also works. In this case, the main sentence was in the past tense, so we will fix it in the past tense only. We will not change it to is, okay? It makes more sense for us to change it to was, but even if we change it to is, that does not impact the sentence grammatically in any way. It just changes the tense of the sentence, right? Okay, so uncountable, countable, clear. Whenever you are confused, just refer to this. These are for uncountable, these are for countable nouns. Alright? Now, next sentence, what is the error here? Now we've come to a little tricky territory. This is often confusing for a lot of students, and understandably so. It is a confusing concept. Everyone is stuck. Nobody knows what the error is. If I get the job, I will be moving to Canada. Okay. So I'm not going to write down what you're saying. I'm just going to write down your names and then we'll see who got it right. Aman has given an answer. If I would get a job, I will move to Canada. Sunny Singh, and comes after job. Okay. Any other corrections? Anybody wants to give it a go? Okay, Rohan, you've added some extra words here, which is fine. If I get an opportunity to get a job, I will move to Canada. Here, you have added the word opportunity. Okay, if I were to get the job, I will move to Canada. I'm going to write Sid for you, Siddharth, okay? So many answers, all of them different. Would instead of will. Sion, you have studied this before. You've forgotten already. So many answers. And all of them wrong. Now Sunny has corrected because he realized. But all of you are wrong. Okay? It's fine. Yash, you are also wrong. But it's okay. This is a very confusing concept. So now understand it and then you will all get it right. Okay? Understand it once and for all. This is a conditional sentence. What is a condition? A condition is something based on which something will happen, right? Agar ye hua to wo hoga, right? So all our conditional sentences as a rule start with if. If this happens, and then there is another thing that will happen depending upon the if clause. So we have different kinds of conditionals, okay? Understand this. 0, 1, 2, 3. Alright? 4 different types of conditionals starting with 0, then 1, then 2 and then 3. All of them have a different usage. 0 conditional is about facts, right? Is about facts. For example, if I boil water, if I heat water, it boils, right? If it rains, you get wet. Stuff like that. So here when you're talking about facts, your if clause, I'm just gonna write conditional usage if then, okay? So your if clause in this case will be simple present tense, and your then clause will also be simple present tense. For example, if it rains, we get wet, right? If it rains, we get wet. Fact. Then we have our first conditional, okay? First conditional is used to talk about a future outcome. It's used to talk about a future outcome, right? So now in this case, your if clause will still be simple present. But your then clause will be simple future. That means you will have will over here, right? If I get the job, then I will move to Canada. All right? If this happens, then this will happen. If it is about a future outcome, we will use will, or we will say the then part of the sentence in simple future. So, what is this sentence supposed to be? It is supposed to be a future outcome. This is supposed to be what? First conditional. This is supposed to be the first conditional. So it should be, if I get the job, I will move to Canada. All we had to do was remove the will. We don't have to complicate it so much. Clear? Then we have 2 more conditionals. The second conditional is used for hypothetical situations. Right? So here this is in the simple past, and here we have would, the word would plus our verb, right? Yes, it is tricky. So now I want you to try and come up with a sentence in second conditional. Hypothetical means when something is not real, but we think as if it's real, and we talk about it in that sense. We don't have to add the word then. We don't have to add the word then. We have to add the word if, but we don't have to add the word then. We simply indicate that using a comma, right? Just adding a comma does the job of then. We don't have to add it separately. So try coming up with a sentence in the second conditional. Second conditional sentence. Yeah, you can get a PDF Scion. I will make that available for you. Quickly try. For example, if he loved me, we would get married. Some heartbroken person can say this, right? If he loved me, we would get married. Hypothetical, he does not really love you, but the simple past is loved me, and here we have would plus verb. Okay? So then this is the second conditional. In the second conditional, one thing to remember, very important, is that if we use if I was a millionaire, we generally don't say was, even though grammatically that is correct. We say were. If I were a millionaire, I would donate my wealth for animal welfare. So whenever you have if you want to say if I was the president, if I was the prime minister, if I was a millionaire, if I was an astronaut, instead of saying I was, say I were. If I were a millionaire, if I were the prime minister, I would do this. If I were an astronaut, I would try and go to Jupiter. Whatever it is, right? These are very common second conditional sentences. Just remember, with I, we will use were. All right? And then finally the third conditional. Third conditional is used for past reflections. So something has happened in the past and you are thinking about how the outcome could have been different. Okay? For example, if I had studied harder, I would have passed. So what do we have here? We have had studied and would have passed. So in the case of third conditionals, when we talk about past and how if something in the past had happened differently, the outcome would have been different. The if clause will always be, what is this? Past perfect. And here we have would plus have plus V3, the past participle form of the verb. All right? Okay? Is that clear? If I had studied harder, I would have passed. Would plus have plus the past participle, which is the V3 form. All right? Get it? So now quickly, I want you all to make one sentence in a conditional of your choice. Choose whichever conditional you want. Make one sentence. And I want to check if you are using the conditional correctly in terms of usage and in terms of structure. Okay? Quickly pick one conditional, any conditional that you like. Don't go for the easiest one. Challenge yourself a little bit and give me one sentence and I will just check if you have used the conditional correctly in terms of usage, why you are forming that sentence, and if you have used it, if you've used the grammatical aspects of it correctly. All right? And let's see who comes up with the wackiest sentence, the weirdest sentence. You can't really do that with facts, but otherwise. I will take your name if you make a good sentence using a conditional. No other reason. Okay, if I hadn't wasted so much time, I could have finished my project earlier. Good, Shreya, but look at the then clause. Have you done it correctly? Just analyze the second part. I really like the fact that you went for a negative sentence. Good job. But look at the then clause, see if you formulated that correctly. You can use could as well. But right now, let's not get into that and complicate things, because you will get the opportunity to use conditional sentences quite a bit in the IELTS, and I don't want you to mess it up by complicating it. So right now, remember this structure, and you are saying the outcome would have been different. So if you hadn't wasted so much time, you would have finished. You are saying with certainty. If you are not saying it with certainty, and if you are still iffy about the outcome, you can say I could have finished my project on time. There is nothing wrong with that. Your usage is correct. I just want you to understand that in this case, it will not be an outcome that is certain. You are saying it could have happened. There is a possibility, right? So it's a different use of modal over there. If I had tried harder, I would have cracked the exams. Yes. Good. Correct sentence, Rohan, but very similar to the one that I gave you. So, lack of imagination, but good sentence. If I had a spaceship, I see. Aman, here what you have done is you have mixed the third and second conditional. What are you saying? Having a spaceship is a hypothetical situation, right? And over here, had is your main verb. It is not your helping verb. So it's not in past perfect, it's in simple past. If I had a spaceship, I would travel to different planets. So have is not required. What do we have here? Would plus verb. So you are using the second conditional. That's why have is not required. Have we add in the third conditional. Okay. So I would travel to different planets. Okay. If I won the lottery, I would travel the world. Yes, very good. That's correct. Were I to meet the president, I would ask for his autograph. If I were to meet, okay, so see, generally very good, Yashovardhan, that you brought this up. Generally speaking, we start our conditionals with if, but there are some reversals that we can do in the structure. For example, were I to meet the president. Although I have a feeling that you Googled this and looked it up. But Shreya, your could also works. Could was not wrong. I'm just saying you need to be sure of the usage. Would means certainly that would have been the outcome. Could means there is a possibility that that would have been the outcome. Right? Okay, very good. If I had a bike, then I would travel to Leh Ladakh. You don't have to say with my bike twice, Sunny. You can just say I would travel to Leh Ladakh. Okay? Very good. If I were a sportsman, I would enjoy my life very well. That's good. The sentence is sound grammatically. Okay. Great job, everyone. Good job. So now your conditionals are clear. Okay. So don't mess up. Oops. Don't mess up while forming these sentences. Make sure that you know exactly why you're using a certain conditional. Once you've figured out why you want to form this sentence, then just remember the grammatical aspects of it and frame it correctly. Okay? Alright, next error. 2 more to go. Next error. Yes, Sion, very good. You're talking about a future outcome. And so you're saying if I become a doctor, I will help people for free. And if you want to change this to a hypothetical situation, which means that you're not actually considering becoming a doctor, but you're speaking hypothetically, then you will say, if I were a doctor, I would help people for free. If I become a doctor, I will help people for free. Second conditional. Third conditional, if I were a doctor, I would help people for free. Okay? All right. What? Okay. Sion says should be next to. Next to. Okay. That's a interesting error that I want to address. Shreya says which should be who. Sunny also agrees. Aman has gone a step further and added commas. All right. Good job. Easiest fix is to just change this. When you're adding a relative clause, just remember who or whom is for people and which is for things. Who or whom is for people, which is for things. In this case, we are talking about a man and we are saying he lives next door. Now see, Sion, next door as a phrase means next to my house. So there is nothing wrong with this phrase, right? Next to my house, next door mean the same thing. So here we don't have to add to. This is fine. There is no error over here. Alright, so the man who lives next door is a professor. Here we have to add the clause in the middle. Understand this. The reason why commas are not necessary is that if I simply say the man is a professor, we can't be sure which man we are talking about, right? So in this case, the man who lives next door is important information, right? To indicate which man is the professor. So here the man who lives next door is a professor, no commas required. We will only add commas when the information between the commas can be omitted and the sentence will still make sense. Only add commas when you're setting off information that is not essential. We add commas to set off information which is not essential. In this case, this information is essential. Alright, that is why we will not add commas, not necessary to add commas. Is that clear? Alright, so it's just a case of a relative clause, which for things, who or whom for people, right? And in this case, who when the person you're referring to is the subject, whom when is the object, right? So, for example, the man whom you met last week is my uncle, right? In this case, you met is the subject, you met the man. The man becomes the object. That's why we are using whom over here, right? In this case, the man who lives next door. Who lives next door? The man. Okay? So, the man lives next door. Who is the subject? Does that make sense? Here, whom refers to the object because you met last week. You met last week. The man whom you met last week. You is the subject here. Okay, that's for relative clauses. And last one. What is the error over here? This is the last question. Amit, whatever help you need, you will get if you fill out the counseling form. Just do that. Okay? एंड इट डिपेंड्स आपकी यूनिवर्सिटी में उनकी रिक्वायरमेंट क्या है, क्या वो IELTS एक्सेप्ट कर रहे हैं कि उनको जर्मन लैंग्वेज, व्हाट इज द मीडियम ऑफ इंस्ट्रक्शन, देयर आर मेनी थिंग्स दैट यू नीड टू कंसिडर. ठीक है, एक चीज़ के बेसिस पे नहीं होगा. विच इज़ वाई आई एम टेलिंग यू, इफ यू फिल आउट द काउंसलिंग फॉर्म, आपको कोई ना कोई हेल्प कर देगा ये सारी चीज़ें फिगर आउट करने में. ओके, दिस इज मच बेटर दैन द प्रीवियस डिजाइन. Okay, a lot of you are saying to replace more with much. That is one potential correction. No, Aman, this is much more. See, you can either use much or you can use more in this context. There are certain sentences in which we can say much more. But what if I remove more? Does that also work? What if I get rid of more altogether? Does the sentence still work? Does the sentence still work? It does, right? The sentence still works if I remove more. Now the thing here is, better is already in the comparative degree. Okay, we have degrees of comparison. Here we are, let's assume, because of the sentence, we can assume that two designs are being compared. Design 1 and design 2, right? So here we are saying that design 2 is better than design 1. So we are already comparing two things. Better is already in the comparative degree. So if we have something in the comparative degree, then we don't have to add more, which is also comparative degree. See, good, better, best, right? Good, better, best. Interesting, more interesting, most interesting. So here, both these middle ones are already comparative degree. If we add more before better, it becomes redundant. It is not required. More is only used with words that have 3 or more syllables in the comparative degree. All right? Clear? So now this, what you all suggested, this works to add extent or emphasis that this is much better. It's not just better, it's a lot better. It's much better. So here we are adding some more emphasis, extent. So we can do this. This is correct. But even if we simply omit this, the sentence makes sense. Better is already in the comparative degree. All right. So that's the end. Great job, everyone. So I hope if you had any confusions, all of them have been cleared. These are very fundamental basic grammatical concepts that you need to know for competitive exams. And so if you have this in place, then you are quite okay. There still might be certain things that you have to work on, but if you were able to get like at least 80% of the questions right, then you are in a good place. And if you weren't, then now you know the reason, now you know the rule, and now you can understand the concept and not make the same mistake again. All right. When will my next lecture be? That'll be on Monday at 2 p.m. All right. Monday 2 p.m. So thank you so much, guys. If you had fun, if you enjoyed the class, make sure to subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends, leave your comments, and follow us on Telegram so you don't miss out on updates. Like I said, I only take names of those students who actually give good responses in the class, not those who want to do faltu baate. So if you want me to take your name, then you have to give me correct answers or wrong answers also. Just answers. Thank you, Shreya. Thanks so much. See you all. Bye-bye. Bye, Sunny. Bye, Kushagra. All right. Take care, everyone. Have a fab Sunday. Enjoy.